Welcome to the new Wabu Order Podcast, and I go by the name of Wabu. Today I got some special people with me.
Hey, yeah, Martre Stevens, a.k.a. Baker, from the My Unapologetic Perspective podcast, where we're here to give information to our African Americans based off experience, based off Black history, based off perspective. And I'm to the right of me, of course, is one of my co-hosts, my father, Jerome Battle.
What's up? Glad to be here, man. Finally meet you in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Appreciate you for having us, bro.
Nah, this is something that's long overdue. We should have been done this, but
sure.
And I definitely look forward to it. First time I seen y'all, and plus we in the same area.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I was like, man, I got to do something with these guys. You know how some people won't reach out. They'll like something, but they won't reach out. I'm like, I'm not afraid to say I love y'all podcast. I'm not afraid to, you know how people, that's
right.
D-Rod
That's right.
and all of that.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid to say whatever I like, I like.
Absolutely.
Like, if I don't like it, I'm just not going to say nothing.
That's right.
Yeah,
You
that's
get what I'm saying?
That's a Black problem too, because we could have easily looked at each other like competition.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
But nah, we're trying to actually give out information to our people.
Yeah.
So it's more about collaboration and building those resources, building that information. Things we agree with, things we don't disagree with, but still give the information out to our people.
The competition when we all trying to make it.
Yeah,
so why not just all join forces, share each other's resources, and then we all blow up, and then we could be competition later.
That's right. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
but let's all blow up.
Absolutely.
Like I never got that. Like, why should I feel like we both on the bottom? Is it where I can?
Yeah, you good.
Oh.
You good.
Yo, come to the back. Come to the back. Man, he done just came and messed up the flow. Man. Oh, so y'all edited and all that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Y'all self-contained
They
unit.
professionals. They
Oh,
professionals.
yeah.
Hey, you got to,
Yeah,
man.
see,
Like,
we older. We ain't doing.
I actually got to, man, because like I have a hard time
And you was
waiting on people.
pops.
Yeah, my sons, man. My sons.
You had him young, right?
Yeah.
About 17?
18.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got to do it myself. I have a hard time.
Oh,
waiting on
I
other
didn't-
people, bro.
Yeah.
I remember he said, yeah, my pops is coming. I
Yeah.
said, his pops ain't on no podcast. His pops ain't on a podcast. What I never told you that. I'm like, yo, I don't know, is this brother a little crazy? Because he said my pops is coming. I said, his pops ain't on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to be with these dudes, man.
Oh,
Watch
yeah.
them doing what they're doing, man, and then to be a part of it.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, and to do it with your son is.
Yeah.
So then I know he came from good stock. So you taught him at a young age.
Nah, they taught me.
Oh,
Yeah, they taught me.
you
man.
boy.
These guys, man, have been, I talked to them about Black history when they were young. They grew up listening to the rap music that I listened to, and I would talk about the rap artists. I don't know if they told you, but my cousin is Jazzo. You know,
Oh,
Big Jazz,
yeah,
that's my
yeah.
cousin.
Oh, yeah, he from Bedford, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they grew up hearing the stories about me and Jazz and Jay and all that
Yeah.
stuff, man. So as they got a little
He was
older-
part of the Ansar Allah community.
yeah, on that To Your Soul album.
Yeah.
So just having them grow up with that information and then deciding as adults to put that in perspective with what they see, man, it's huge. It's
Man,
huge.
okay. So then were you part of the Ansar?
And originally that was my first, I would say, understanding of Islam, because for
Mine's
me,
also.
For
That's
me,
why I
when
say
I
that.
first started thinking about religion, I had questions about the Bible and things that we were learning in the Bible. So I had no association with any other religion. I was Baptist. But I had questions. And then when I went to people to get answers, of course, they gave me an answer based on what they believed, instead of saying, I can see how people interpret it that way. I didn't get that.
Coming up, I was Catholic. Cause my family, my mother is Puerto Rican.
Okay.
So most Puerto Ricans are Catholic. So I came up Catholic. But I used to be in there like, man, this shit is boring. I used to be like, and why we gotta listen to this white man? Like, I always been like that. Like, I just didn't agree with it, and it seemed demonic. Like, I was swearing like the nigga floats when he comes up to the thing, cause he had the long gown on, and in my head I'm hearing Damien. So I'm like, nah, this is crazy. So it was this lady in my building. She used to always talk this gospel stuff. So I'm like, man, I used to see it on church.
Right.
Like, I mean, like on TV.
Right.
Because like in my time growing up in New York, it wasn't a lot of Baptist churches. Okay. Like it was all Catholic for the most part. So I'm like, man, that look nice. You know, they singing, it's honey dips in there. I'm like, man, I want to go there. So I asked her about her church. She brought me to her church. So that's how I became Baptist. Then I'm just like, nah, this ain't it. And then I met this kid in school. He was always mad different. He knew how to talk different. I'm like, man, what's up with this nigga? And every time he'll say something, he would equate it to like bringing it back to being black. And I'm like, man, black people ain't, I was starting to coon. Right. And I was like, black people ain't do this, they ain't do that, they ain't do this, they ain't do that. And he was like, I'm like, where you get that information from? Yeah, he was a 5%er. So I started learning the 5% Nation, and then from there I got into the Ansar the Law community because I felt like it was going up. So then I just like started joining everything, different movements I could join and just learn. Picked out of the hat with and I think Islam feel the best to me. Right. More than any other chamber. From the Masons to gangs to the mosque to the church to everything in the South. Now, I'm not going to say the whole South. I'm going to say this area. There's no brotherhood in nothing.
No. Oh, no.
No gang in this area has brotherhood. No lodge, no church, no mosque. None of that. Now, if you want to see that, you go other places. Like, say I go to D.C. As being a Mason. It's like being a superstar. Literally. It's like being a superstar. If you go other places, like if I go to the mosque in New York, like just walking around New York with my kufi on, it's like I know nobody gonna rob me or nothing. That's right. You get what I'm saying? It's it's like a pass everywhere. But here, nothing means nothing.
But you know that goes back to what you said in the beginning. It's because we're complacent. So there's no brotherhood because there's no need for the unity. Right? If you have need for the unity, and we talk about it all the time, if somebody was to come knock on your door today and said, look, we're recruiting all black people for this cause that you may not come home tonight, how many people gonna get up and go? Yeah. Right? Yeah. Many, man, the kids gotta go to ballet practice, the kids gotta go, somebody gotta take them, I gotta take them, somebody else gonna have to do your part, right? We just don't have that level of commitment and unity because people look at issues based on how does it affect them. And if it doesn't affect them today, they're not going to really worry about it.
Yeah, we not, as far as people, we're not worrying about our future.
Absolutely.
Like any other race of people, they look at their future. Like,
absolutely.
What do you think demographic have anything to do with that? Because when we look at the North and the South, historically, it's always been like that. Yeah. You know, even if you look at the Nation of Islam that was coming out of the New York, the Detroits, the Chicagos, versus the civil rights movement coming out of the South, there was always infiltration from white America inside these organizations. So there's never been a brotherhood of just African Americans really from the South.
Yeah. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we will be ready as a people when the Southern man wakes up.
That's right.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's because the location determines the mentality. So you take the black man from the South, mentality is completely different than a black man from the North.
Right. Yeah.
Completely different. Up North, they're going to be more aggressive. They're going to be more vocal. Where in the South, they're going to be more passive.
Right.
Why? Because we feel like they're letting us do something.
And there's another thing with that also, though. Like in the South, like growing up, I grew up in New York. I ain't even have white neighbors. Only white people I seen was cops. And if you was trying to buy drugs or you was looking for trannies.
Right.
That's the only time I seen like real white people. And so I didn't have the, like growing up, my first girlfriend wasn't white. You know, like how most here you went to school, your neighbors. That's right. So you have a different love for white people.
We have to deal with each other.
Yeah,
Because
like,
you've seen it.
I thought all white people live like Boy Meets World.
Right.
Like that's how I thought. Like,
Right.
and then besides them, like always coming to get trannies because my neighborhood was like a whole stroll. So all white men, I always, like growing up, I was like, yo, all white men just want trannies.
Or
they
the
look
first-
for
or the
trannies.
first
Yeah,
white person that you do get to know, you start thinking that they're indicative of all white people, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, we had one white person lived in our district. I was born and raised in D.C.
Yeah.
And we had a white guy that lived right next to us who hated black people, and he was the only white person in the whole area. So we assumed that all white people was just like him.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah,
So whenever you encounter them, you assume they don't like you. So what do?
Yeah.
I don't like you either. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you buckle down. And that's how we dealt with white people.
but black people, we got so much good hearts with everybody else.
We give
We're,
everybody
like-
the benefit of the doubt.
Like, say if any other race been through what the black race been through, they will be, you could say they okay to hate that other race that put them through that
Right.
oppression,
Yeah.
right? Like, say with the so-called Jews, they hate the Germans, the Nazis, proudly, and we cheer them on like, yeah, hate them, hate them, hate them,
don't hate
hate
the white
them.
man.
But we don't. But we love the white man with all of our heart and soul.
That's right.
The most forgiving people in the world.
The most forgiving people,
Yes.
even white people. If you tell them a secret, like, what would you? They was like, man, we would hate white people if we went through what y'all. We would, if y'all did that to us, we would hate y'all.
Right. And I honestly believe, I know a lot of our listeners are Christians, but I believe a lot of that has to do with religion as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we're taught to turn the other cheek. We're taught to forgive. We're taught to do all of those things that's biblical. But the people who really gave us that Bible in America don't practice that at all.
Yes.
So we became exactly what they wanted us to do by taking on this religion, by being forgiven, by turning the other cheek, by waiting for our heaven in the afterlife instead of taking care of what we got to take care of right now, for not just for ourselves, but for our.
That we forgot to tell them, we'll forgive you, but we need you to tell the truth about it. I think we allowed them. And in certain senses, we could go back to the 60s, and I think that black people wanted to suppress the truth. I think we're part of the problem with how black history developed. Is that we did not want them to talk about slavery because we didn't want them. We all talk about roots when we were in school. The first time they show roots in school, how we felt white people were looking at us. Instead of us worried about the history and how we wanted people to know the history, we start thinking that people are looking at that movie, now they're looking at me. Right?
Yeah.
When we should have been saying, look at the movie, look at me, because I am a product of that, but so are you. Right?
Yeah.
And in order for you to know that, you need to watch this.
Right.
But black people didn't want to watch it either.
Yeah.
So I think that we was part of
And
the
that
problem.
hurts because there's two sides of slavery.
Absolutely.
You got the enslaved African, and then you have the slave masters or the people who stay silent
That's right.
about it. And white America needs to know about slavery, not just because of the enslaved Africans, but the history of the way we were treated by
That's right.
your ancestors.
And the development of the two Americas, because that's where it starts, right? So the mentality of the white America, and then the mentality of the black, that's where it started.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you want to know how we got to be what people consider the black angry man or whatever. We got to that because of that part of history that now you don't even want to be truthful about.
Right.
That helped shape. We talk about what shaped America, right? You see episodes all the time on History Channel. This is what shaped America.
Right.
But what shaped the minds of America is important, because what shaped white America, what shaped their minds, could be totally different than what shaped black America's minds.
Yeah, but what's most important, the slavery thing was and this is not to change the subject, is a big distraction, because it's only like 4% of us came from Africa.
That's right.
So what about the people that was here already? Most of us was here. Like that was the biggest lie they ever taught us. Like they bought 100 million in the 1500s on a boat here. How does that make sense?
Right.
That's right.
How does that make sense? We were already here. So when they was running away, where was they running to?
That's right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right. Because especially if you look at places
How we
like,
knew the lands?
right.
How white people always used us as navigators? Lewis and Clark. They used Ben York.
Yeah.
Why did they use Ben York, a black man, to go talk to these native tribes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can
because we the original native people.
Spanish conquistadors going
yes.
west. You can look at Jamaica with the Maroons.
Yes.
How, they escaped to the mountains, but how was these people able to survive without knowing the area and the territory?
Yeah.
Import and export.
Or just
routes.
Christopher Columbus. He said in his journals, you can go to DC and see it. In his journals, he said he's seen Ethiopians.
That's
at the time they called us Ethiopians. He said he's seen Ethiopians over here.
But the trade routes that they took to get, if you talk about going into Mexico, the trade routes that they took to get there, who do they think was taking those trade routes?
Comes out of West Africa, where Christopher Columbus was living.
Who do they think created found those trade routes?
Right.
Yeah. Yes. And if we the oldest people on the planet, like I always tell people say, oh no, we wasn't here in America. If we were here thousands of, like science proved this. This is like no mumbo jumbo. Science proved this. If the black race was here thousands of years before there was even a white race or even a Chinese race, an Asian race.
That's right.
If we were here before all of these races, what you thought? We just stayed in one area? And like the human mind would say is, you ever just driving and you say, man, I never been up that street. Yeah. Let me go up this street. Just the human mind gonna be like, I can see as far as that, but you know what? Let me go over there.
Right.
And then let me go over there. And then there's just naturally.
They want you to believe.
Because the white race only been here less than 6,000 years. That's just a scientific fact.
They want you to believe that exploration started with the Vikings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what they want you to believe, right?
Yeah.
It started with the Vikings.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's that's crazy, man. But what can change that as far as people? I always say the church. If we want to change black people, I always say the church, because the church is the cornerstone of the black community, or was the cornerstone of the black community. Like T.D. Jakes could change the plot of black people overnight.
Right.
If he taught some truth.
But the change happens because you look at the 60s and you look at Dr. King and you look at these deacons and these pastors who were out from the civil rights movement. What ended up happening was the church started getting funded by the government. So they started not being able to speak about these things. This is why you don't see pastors talking about Black Lives Matter. You don't see pastors out in the front lines.
What we were just talking about before.
Right.
Sometimes that paycheck or that support determines the level of information you're willing to disseminate.
But is it worth selling out your people?
Well, here's the other part. We and this is great intro, because we're going to talk about accountability, and this is part of it. So when you talk about cornerstones of the black community, you talk about the church. When you talk about businesses, you talk about barbershops. You're talking about black-owned businesses. These become the cornerstones in black communities, right? Mm-hmm. What happens when you lose trust in those people due to accountability issues? We can go back to the Southern Baptist Church. We can go back to Martin Luther King. We can talk about how, as time went on, some things about those churches being exploited and some of the things that they were doing that wasn't necessarily right, how that tapped into the black accountability to where blacks lost faith in those things. Not even think about Jesse Jackson. No bigger person in NAACP and Operation Push than Jesse Jackson. Do you even hear about him anymore?
No.
Because of
is he still living?
Yeah,
I know he had COVID.
That's the funny thing. He's still living, but he's not as influential. Why? He doesn't have the trust of the people anymore. He lost that trust due to accountability issues. And we can talk about why they lost, and we can talk about, I love the fact that I believe that compensation sometimes determines the amount of information somebody's willing to give. I believe that, because if it affects their family, if it affects what they're bringing home at the end of the day, we've seen evidence of it. They're not going to say anything.
Yeah, you know? I think like certain things, like as far as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, I believe they were fighting for us, but I believe they done their families
an injustice.
Absolutely.
Right, because Malcolm
X wasn't there.
Like he didn't have
they wasn't there for their families. Absolutely. Like before. Like, and I tell this to Jordan all the time. Like, you have to worry about your own family first.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, it's nothing wrong with, like, hold on, my family got to eat first before I feed the rest of the, like, you doing your own family an injustice. That's like, not you worrying about the world. Like, I feel like all of these organizations and groups, they have stupid movements like make sure kids have basketballs. Like, That's just some, like, and I tell that to he be like, no, you got to make sure. No, that's some stupid shit. Like, make sure a kid have a basketball or make sure everyone gets a hug. Like, nah, we got bigger fish than fried and make sure a kid get a basketball and all this stuff. We got to worry about our own first. And sometimes when I say my own, I'm saying like, yo, the whole black race.
Yeah.
We have to be selfish now.
Exactly.
We have to be and let everybody else hold their own nuts.
Yeah, you have to be selfish. I mean, it's the same principle. When you want better for yourself, whether it's you want a better education or you want to be a better person, you want to learn a trade, you want to make more money, you have to be selfish and you have to do whatever it takes to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So you can't worry about everybody else. The same thing works for unity when it comes to our race. If we want it better for our race, then one, we got to unite. We got to come up with a common agenda, and then we got to have a plan to put forth to be able to do it. We can't do that. We can't get black people to agree on much of anything.
Yeah.
Why? I feel that some people feel like I'm good. I'm complacent. I got what I want. I'm content. And that's what complacency is. You're content with what you have, and none of this other stuff that we're talking about affects you in your daily life. So you're good.
Here you go, Jordan, right here. Now, I try to mix comedy and with social issues.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean?
Interviews, your hosting job is A1 for real.
I'm trying to get better. Nah, y'all join this A1.
Almost a year.
I love y'all show.
Yeah, he started February last year. Yeah.
You started a month before me.
Oh, word?
Yeah. I started March. And it was my lady who pushed me. I would have never done it. She really, really pushed me to do it. Like, you need to do your podcast. Because she was like, I'm tired of you listening to Tariq Nasheed. She was like, I need you to do your thing.
Yeah.
Because I kept talking. Remember, I've been saying it for years. I'm about to do my podcast. I was looking at a Facebook, the throwback stuff that came.
Yeah.
I was saying this in 2014.
And finally put
that I was doing the podcast. I said, new Wabu Order Podcast coming soon.
Hey,
and I had people like, all right, when I'm going to tune in. I'm going to tune in. And I just kept talking about it.
Finally put it into action, though.
Yeah, I just ain't have nobody with the technical part to do all of that stuff. And then he introduced me to Brandon. But I don't know where that's going.
I had the cameras. I ain't had no mic, so... I had some lapel mics that I used when I was speaking, but I just went on Amazon and got like 3 mics that was like $80. I mean, it did the job, but I couldn't go out like $300 on 3 mics and have my wife looking at me like, yo.
Oh yeah. Walls, and I was talking to this guy from the county, so I'm like, man, why are you so pro-white? Like, he was saying crazy stuff like this white rapper named Haystack was better than Jay-Z. Like, he said all black women is ugly. Cameron Diaz, that's why I always say, talk to a county guy and ask him who's the best looking white woman. They all say Cameron Diaz. Right? So he said Cameron Diaz looks better than Beyonce. All black women is ugly. And I'm like, yo, this nigga's sick. Like, people was getting ready to touch him up in there to get him up out of there. And we like, yo. And then he broke down. He was like, well, the reason I'm into white women because where I'm from, I'm related to everybody black.
So you had to be.
Yeah, so he was like, he was like, what, I'm a date a man? So he was like, and I never looked at it like that. Like, wow, it's like, if you in a small area, it's a good chance. And if they not your family, it's like they like family.
They like
we might as well be family.
Your family and been with the person before.
So now I can understand, like, I'm going to go over here and get this white woman. Like, because they right there and they willing, like, hey, you got meth? We going to do our thing.
They got transportation. You could go somewhere else and get away.
That's how I look at it. You can... You can come down, but it's a good chance people from in the city is your family.
Yeah.
Because if it's a small town outside of a city, you already know a lot of the people in that city come from that small town.
As long as you ain't going to Tennessee or Georgia, you can go wherever you want and get a woman, right?
Yeah.
He hates Southern states. So.
Oh, you hate Southern states?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Nah, you know what? I used to be anti-South, even though I lived in the South for years. To my last trip to New York, it's a couple of weeks ago, I realized I'm a country boy now. Like, New York is disgusting.
I'm with you. I like Virginia, but I don't want to go much further south than Virginia.
Like, now I realize.
I'm with you.
I realize I like trees. I like good air. I like parking spots.
You like parking.
Yeah, like, it's a lot of things like that I like people not living on top of you, or like.
Yeah, you got those old cities like New York and Chicago. You can't build out. So you got to build up.
Yeah.
And you putting all these people in these small areas. We always joke about, people talk about New York City, and people think New York City is, 30, 40 miles or larger. It's not.
Yeah.
New York City is small.
Yeah.
You just got 10 million people there.
Yeah. And it seemed like now it's even more like, growing up, at least it was like some type of parking spots.
Right.
Like now it's cars double and triple parked everywhere.
So what part of New York you from?
The Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The only part you could be from. Yeah. But it was like a different. I went to my old neighborhood and I'm standing there. And there's tons of people outside. And this is an area my family lived there for like 100 years. I don't know nobody. Not one person. I'm looking around like, who's this? Who's that? Who's that person? Who's that person? Like, and they looking at me crazy. I got to call my homeboy that still live in the neighborhood like, yo, I'm standing right where guys trap at. So they looking at me like, yo, who this dude right here? I'm telling my man, like, man, I think they getting ready to jump on me. He like, man, put me on FaceTime. He like, so he could tell them, like, chill out. Like, if they getting ready to do something. But I'm like,
old neighborhood.
Yeah, and like, that was a place I never thought would have changed.
That much.
Yeah, but then I'm like, damn. And then I'm thinking about it, like, my age, I'm not a young kid no more. So I'm like, most of the people I know is gone. They either dead or they moved on, or, it's a big thing. Everybody's moving to the South because like right now in New York, it's not a lot of foundational Black Americans.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like the only Black people is like Africans, Jamaicans, all that foundational Black Americans are coming back to the South. Like where they can flourish.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if, you come from the North, you could take $200,000, buy a home in the South, and you're good. You retire.
I say all Black people should move to the South.
What happened is you don't want to have an influx in the Black community, population-wise, but control nothing in that environment. That's what you don't want. So you get all those Black people to move there, but they don't control the government, they control law enforcement, they don't control and control the revenue or anything.
No, they're not going to allow us.
But
then after a while, that would force us to want to do that. And if we so strong all in the southern region, think about if, was it 40 million of us?
But are we moving back to the South with the minds that we have now?
You're going to have to come closer.
Are we moving back to the South with a different mindset? Because you can't move to the South, right? You can't move.
That's a good question.
1,000 people from New York to the South right now, and they
not just New York, just like everywhere, California, everywhere.
You're right. They have to change their mindset.
What about what we talked about earlier? How we talked about how we could have easily been competition. Now you got these new Blacks moving in from South, and now that's competition for our jobs.
Yeah,
you feel me? That's competition for our businesses because New York people probably better sales persons or entrepreneurs than South people because of the way y'all talk. Y'all can, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then that's when we could take over the other races, their jobs, and their. I just say, why not?
As long as to get people we talked about this before the podcast came on, is getting Black people to agree on an agenda.
Yeah. That's...
When I was young, I read a book called The Siege. I know people probably remember the movie called The Siege. But the book was a little different. And in the book, Black people wanted to take over Manhattan. So all Black people come to Manhattan, that was going to be ours. And Black people that lived in Manhattan said, wait a minute, you don't speak for us.
Wow.
You don't speak for us. that's the problem is that it's going to be difficult to get black people to agree on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's the question I got for y'all. Who does speak for us? Who will we be considered an African American leader for the black people?
I think if multiple people will tell you multiple different things, but I don't think we have a universal person that speaks for us. I would, of course, say Minister Louis Farrakhan, but somebody else would say somebody else or some. I don't think we have a universal person that we can say, yeah, nah, he speaks for us.
We don't. And if you think about the ones that we had before, there was something that happened, and usually it was something from our race that brought that person down. And I know all you guys are too young to remember when Al Sharpton was really big
I
being
remember
that spokesperson.
I remember when he got stabbed in Howard Beach.
Right. Do you remember what was his downfall, that he lost his credibility?
Getting that perm.
No.
What was it?
Tawana Brawley.
Oh yeah. Tawana Brawley.
So
Okay,
people,
yeah.
What Tawana Brawley did is she said she got
yeah.
raped by
Yeah.
6 white police officers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were police officers or not, but it was some white people.
And you know why I believe her?
And everybody believed her.
I believe Tawana
Everybody
Brawley.
believed her, including Al Sharpton, who went to bat for her
Yeah.
publicly. And that was probably the first instance where you had a black, other than Martin Luther King or Jesse Jackson, that went public about an individual that wasn't a celebrity. And he found out afterwards that the whole story was made up. And after that, his credibility was shot. And once again, we talked about accountability. The problem with accountability is you have to have an establishment that has the respect of the people.
Yes.
And in this case, I don't know that we really have somebody that has the respect of the people that you can unify. Barack Obama could not have spoken for black people. He was the president of all people. So he couldn't have spoke for us. So he couldn't have been that person. So right now, we don't have that person, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because if you have one person, the
head could be shot down.
Right. Remember the Black Panthers. The reason that they had leaders in a lot of different locations is so if you take out one, it doesn't stop the progress.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I don't think we ever had one leader that spoke for all black people. Because if you think back to the 60s, Malcolm X was radical.
That's right.
So he didn't speak for, the ones who wanted.
Even Martin Luther King, because 60% of the black churches didn't mess with him. Yeah.
Really, but I think back then, the struggle was more unified.
That's right.
Today, we have, good, decent jobs. We live in nice neighborhoods. We drive nice cars. We got it going on. We're content.
We got our nigga trinkets.
Back then, you had to come through the back door.
Everybody did. Everybody did.
Right.
That's
so
right.
It was different then, so it was easier for Martin Luther King to say, hey, this is
the camera can see him.
This is not right. But then you have Malcolm X up north saying, y'all folks down south, you turning another cheek is not going to help anything.
Right.
Exactly.
So I don't know if we ever had that one person, but if you look back in history, I would probably say it was Martin Luther King, because he had more.
But I don't think nobody got that one person. But white people have a system.
Yeah, well,
they have a system.
Even if they're one person, I think they still communicate a little bit to where it is more unified than ours.
Because they have a system.
He's
they
right.
based it on white supremacy.
That's right.
Which is a system that all of them, no matter who they are, participate in it knowingly or unknowingly.
That's right.
They all white people
Because
participate
you're right.
in white
Because
supremacy.
that system starts with the educational system.
Right.
Yes.
So you can start there, and then you can go down from there. But
Yeah.
he's absolutely right. If you add in the government, that's part of that same system.
Including Eminem. He participates in white supremacy. Okay. Yeah. No, that's just for the people out there. They're going to say not all white people. I said unknowingly, not to say all white people
Unknowingly, that's right.
are white supremacists, but unknowingly, they all participate in white supremacy.
As Samuel L. Jackson said in A Time to Kill, you don't mean to be, you just are. Right?
Yeah.
You can't help it. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Based off of systematic racism, a lot of white people benefit from, black hurt.
Yes.
Like you said, whether it's intentional or not.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. Right?
Yes. But what can they do if they, like, say if white people come to us and say, hey, we're not part of this. What should they do next? What's the next step?
They're not a part of what?
This whole
Racism and discrimination.
White people are coming to us in.
Yeah, like not just us. I'm talking about like to the black people. Say, hey, nah, we ain't down with all of that.
You know, in the 60s.
Like if it was a bunch of John Browns and they came and said, we're not down with that.
Student went to Malcolm X and said, hey,
What can we do?
Yeah, what can I do to help? And initially he told her nothing, right? Yeah. And then later on he thought, you know what he should have told her was, what you can do is go back to your family, go back to your community, go back to your employers and employ fellow employees and talk to them about the things that they're doing that's discriminatory or racist. That's what you can do. If you really don't believe in it, then you need to stand up against it when it happens. Whether it's your family or not, you need to say something. That's what they can do. That's where they start. So saying that, you know, I have one black friend or whatever, that's not it. That doesn't help, right? Yeah. That just means you love that one black person. That's all that means. What happens is when you see it's going on, somebody's been discriminated against or something happening because that person's black, you need to stand up. That's what they can do. The problem with that is you're not going to get many people that's going to do that.
Because again, white people are content.
That's right.
Yeah, of course.
But white people are content.
Who's not content with being on top?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's my answer is,
if we were on top, we would be content also.
Right. I would say you got to take yourself out the equation, because if you're willing to do something for Black America, you have to understand that you don't get any results from that. Just Black America does. So you have to take yourself out of the equation. And from my perspective, it's my own experience, because as a motivational speaker, as a person that worked in the community, as a person who was going to the schools, mentoring and all these other things, you know, most of my support came from white people. Mm-hmm. But the minute we started our podcast talking about Black history, those white people went silent. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yes.
You know, they stopped hitting the like button. They stopped hitting the share button. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
As they should.
Right. So the problem is, if it's not benefiting you or your kids, you don't want to say anything. But for the people that we're talking about are the kids that are in school with your kids. So you have to be to not just be non-racist, you have to be anti-racist. And anti-racist means you don't allow the black jokes when you're around. You don't allow the racism talks when you're around. You correct family members, the people that you love. Right. You correct all of these people because it's something that you stand against, not just something that you don't do.
But I like my racist blatant. I don't want it hidden. Right. I don't think it's something we can never. I want to know.
See, you're like it in the South then.
Yeah,
see,
because
north, See, up north, you go into the store, they might not like you, but they'll take your money.
Yeah,
you go in the South, you see the nigga only sign, the white only signs, right?
That's how I want it.
Your money. So you prefer it that way.
Yeah, because now I want, like, I don't want to support you, because I know that money is gonna go to buy bullets to kill black people.
That's right.
So I want us to, and that would force us. Yo, we can't go in that store. Guess what? We gonna have to build our own store. So I like it. Like the other thing is like up north. Well, up north is just like the white people is way more vicious.
Except they'll take your money.
Up north, yeah, like.
Oh yeah, Dr. King said Chicago was the worst place.
They are.
Yeah,
they'll take your money. That's the main thing is you can buy what you want.
Like in the South, like the white people, they still gonna come to us to buy drugs. And like that's just, they racist until drugs come into play. Hey, buddy, they still gonna come to us to buy drugs.
They still gonna come to the college football games.
They still gonna try to mess with black women. They still gonna listen to rap music and all of that. They still gonna do all of that stuff. Up north, the white people are hardcore white supremacists. Hardcore. They not on these drugs as much.
But they still go to black events.
Who, up north? Nah. Like a Jay-Z concert, that's about it.
But they going to black. How many white folks is in Madison Square Garden in a New York game watching all those black folks?
That's right.
I mean, well, that's everywhere.
On the team. But that's black culture. If you go to a concert up in New York, majority of that crowd are going to be white young college kids at that concert. It's black culture.
But that's everywhere though.
I think you made a valid point. As in, if any of you guys watched some footage on Denzel Washington the last couple of weeks, he said the same thing. People talk about him directing and producing certain movies that's black oriented movies. He said it's not necessarily color, it's culture. And I think that's huge. What you just said is a lot of it has nothing to do with color. It's the culture. The culture of an NBA basketball game in Madison Square Garden. Most of those people that go to games at the Garden, you've been to the Garden before, right?
Yeah.
Most of those people don't know a damn thing about basketball. They're going for the experience. That's all it is. It's just the experience at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
You know,
I just think black culture in general is just so overwhelming that it's hard to get away from it. Even if you try, it's just hard, so hard to get away from it. And that's why a lot of white people,
they can't shake us.
A lot of white people in the South, that's why they always at our events, always trying to dress like us, talk like us.
You get on
it's
TikTok.
it's the original fabric of this this world. It's the original fabric of the world.
That's
so
a fact.
of course it's the original fabric of this country. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
a fact.
We talk about that when we talk about the Harlem Renaissance.
Right.
You know,
But they love entertainment by us.
They love it.
They love to be
Well,
entertained.
what they
by
love
us.
is they love the opportunity of figuring out how they can make money off of what we
And
create.
I'm not just saying white people. I'm saying all people. Anybody that's
we
non-black.
make it, they take it. I mean, that's you know the anthem in New York.
Yeah.
Brooklyn keeps on making it. Bronx keep on taking it.
Yeah.
Queens keep on faking it. You know, so that's that. In theory, that's what they do. We create it, they take it. The first patent for shoes was made by a black man, but they won't tell you that. But they'll tell you that a kid in Chicago got killed for a pair of Jordans. Right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You know, the old saying goes, the only invention that a white man made was the pad.
The
dog.
pad dolphin.
that's
Yes,
right.
sir.
That's right.
Last night, me and Jordan had this debate. Was it last night or night before last? About I'm going back to the accountability. And what you had said?
I was basically just saying it stemmed off of the Antonio Brown situation. And so basically what I was saying was after everything came out, Antonio Brown, you know, if he was told to be, if he was cut because he wouldn't go back in because of his ankle, that's wrong on the Buccaneers, on the coach, all that. But after that, clearly Antonio Brown wanted to show up the Buccaneers and the coach. When he took his jersey off, he doing all that with the crowd. And so I was going back to the mental health aspect of Antonio Brown and black people in general, black men in general. And so people were defending it, saying, no, it wasn't anything mental health or anything like that. And I was saying, when as a community are we going to start holding ourselves accountable for the way that we treat our community? Mm-hmm. And so I put on Facebook the other day, when are we going to take care of us, the accountability situation? And so me and Wabu were debating back and forth, and I was saying that it's easier for us to hold us accountable than to hold somebody else out of our community accountable.
That's right.
And Wabu was saying, and I agree with him on this aspect of somebody put us in this situation. So we have to hold whoever put us in this horrible situation, this horrible condition, white folks, we have to hold them accountable as well. But my brother to my right, I should trust him, be able to trust you more than I trust the white guy down the street more. Mm-hmm. Because you look like me, you've been through the same struggles as me. You see every day what I go through. So the whole accountability topic was what we were talking about the other day. And I was just saying that we as a community have to start holding ourselves more accountable on how we behave, especially the ones who know better.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And, you know, when you talk about accountability, especially specific to Antonio Brown, mm-hmm. You can't forget history. And I know people can change, right? I know I've certainly, you guys watched the podcast. I went to prison before, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like I won't say that I may have changed the way I think. I will say that I changed the way I react to the way I think, right?
Yeah.
But you can't forget history. One of the reasons you started the podcast was talking about history. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown has history of doing things that, not just on the football field or even related to football at all, just doing things that seem very bizarre, right? Yeah. And we know that mental health is huge, especially in the black community. Yeah. We can even talk about what's the NBA player that played with LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, Delonte West. Another prime example where the brother was doing things even in Cleveland. There was a clear sign something was wrong. Yeah, and none of us are doctors. I'm not saying, they're bipolar. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But to say that if that was one of my kids, if that was one of my friends, I would pull them to the side and say something clearly going on here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I agree.
I think what you're saying is having a system of people that are putting him in that situation, where are the people that should be looking out for his best interest? Because clearly he can't do it on his own. So there should have been a team that was evaluating what they see, even before Tampa Bay signed him. let's look at the history of this guy and find out if something's going on before we sign him. Because if we sign him, he may need additional help to be able to be on this team. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen. NFL, we talked about it with Allen Iverson. You know, when he got in trouble before going to Georgetown. And a few other, of course, we're talking about athletes, but that's usually where you see it. Yeah. Not getting the type of attention and help that they needed. Allen Iverson would have never became the Allen Iverson he ended up being if it wasn't for somebody like John Thompson. Mm-hmm. Somebody to step in and said, hey, I got you. I'm going to make sure, because when he first got to Georgetown, the very first time that he met John Thompson, he was high. He was smoking weed, right? So he still hadn't learned, even though he had gotten out of jail on a misdemeanor that landed him in prison for 5 years, which I've never heard of in state Virginia. Mm-hmm. But he still had not changed the way he was behaving. Yeah. Somebody has to be accountable for that. Should it be Antonio Brown? Of course, he's a grown man. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. The system put him in a situation and provided no outlet whatsoever, no help whatsoever.
And I didn't know he was talking about Antonio Brown. That was new.
That's what the Facebook post originated. That's what the Facebook post originated.
See, I didn't know. I thought he was saying like
but the overall meaning of the post was black folks need to hold black folks accountable. That's right. You know, the community.
If I would have known that, I wouldn't have chimed in, because I don't really get into the sports thing no more. Because it just brings out the coon in people.
It does.
Like they just go crazy when you talk about sports.
Passionate about it.
So I'm like, damn, let's go crazy about bigger issues that we have. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know he was saying Antonio Brown. I really don't care. Because the NFL was like, most NFL players, probably 90% of them, are vicious, tough coons that need to be stopped. And I just don't like to participate in that. I leave that to, like, his friends on Facebook. They argue all day long about LeBron James. Did he make a dunk? Did he do that? He never scored the point. They go crazy with that. I don't really get into it with them. I used to get into the hip hop argument with them. This might make him mad about Eminem. That group. That there's a group in this area are like vicious, like will lay their life down for Eminem. He was part of the group. He don't want to admit it. He don't want to admit it, but he was part of it was a sick demonic group.
I'm gonna tell y'all exactly what I said. Now tell me if y'all disagree with this.
Watch this. Watch the Boule answer. Watch the Boule answer.
Greatest lyricist of all time. That's exactly what I said.
False.
I never said he was better than
False.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna quote somebody that probably nobody in this room will ever quote. On that, I'm gonna quote 50 Cent. A lot of people dislike Eminem because you got a white guy that can rap better than most black people. and I agree with that 100%. I don't care what color he is. This nigga's nice. Okay? This nigga one of the nicest they ever do.
Oh, so it's emo. What's that shit called? Emo?
Yeah,
it's emo. It's emo
and
rap.
That's why I said a lot of people just can't relate to
emo
music.
rap.
Ain't nobody talking about tying up their mama. Ain't nobody listening to that.
But listen, I'm not trying to hear you did sexual favors with men. You want to kill yourself because you got space and opportunity. Like there's a lot of space and opportunity. You live in a house. There's knives. There's all types of stuff. There's bridges. There's across the bridge. Get here. You can get it done. Yeah, that's just bug out stuff.
But who was Eminem's target audience?
People like him.
That's right. So when we was in school, they bleaching their hair blonde and all this other stuff.
No, but I mean, but what's up with the black people? No, the thing is, if you really like him, you could really stand. I still yet to hear something where even y'all show me how y'all really stand for Eminem.
But see, that's a good point because we talk about his target audience. So we would agree that he's off his rocker a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talk about mental health. I've struggled with mental health. I've admitted on the podcast before. So, yeah, I relate because I have some of those similar thoughts when you talk about like Joe Buttons. You know, my whole life it's been that way. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I can relate, why I listen to the lyrics. And I think he's one of the better lyricists. So, a part of my personality is what pushes me toward thinking that he's a really good lyricist. So
I guess I can't. I love my mom. I love my mother.
I think all of us do.
I'm not saying no. I'm just saying I love my mother. I've never done drugs. I've never done favors for a man sexually. What Eminem that's what his music is all about,
well,
right?
Not just that, but also like the mental thoughts, the things that you think about.
I want to kill myself.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had.
But I'd be thinking that's cop outs, not just Eminem. When everybody say they want to kill themselves, it's just a.
It's not. It's a show me.
It's not.
That's a euphemism for I don't like my life, right? I don't like the things I'm. That's a euphemism.
But like I said, there's bridges. There's bridges always open.
Remember,
there's knives in the kitchen.
Just because you have the thoughts of it doesn't mean that
you want to
go through it. But you have the thought of why.
But so why say it? Because you want attention?
No, because you want to share it.
It may be easier for me to get it off my chest through a rap.
And I want to share it.
I think everybody feel like that. Like, I don't want to be here no more. But I'm never going to be like, I don't want to be here no more. Because if I don't really want to be here, there's plenty of pill bottles in the cabinet. I could get it popping at any time.
Here's the thing. We talk about transfer of information, right? So you were talking about your girlfriend saying that she's related to a lot of people, always being concerned with maybe dating somebody that's related to her. And a lot of that's because the fathers of the kids aren't sharing information. Right. Yeah. So sharing information is about, one, could help you, right? Just by getting it off your chest, but you could be helping someone else. So the fact that you are saying, I've struggled with mental health. I've struggled with thoughts of suicide. Somebody else that's having the same thoughts that are afraid to say something.
I'm loving where this conversation is going.
Now they can open up and say, you know what, Mom, I listened to a guy today that I thought had it all together. And he told me that he struggled with mental health. I do too. I need some help. That can spark change by admitting certain things about yourself, even things that are worse. Like, you know, and I've told my sons this before. Yeah, I went to prison. I was fortunate. They were fortunate that their mom married a guy that's a better dad to them than I ever could have been, right? And I respect them for that. But I've also told them when I got out, I was a piece of shit. I spent my whole life doing things that led me to go to prison. Right? So the man that you see today is not the man that was in front of you when you were 4 years old or 5 years old.
Because you grew.
Because I grew.
Yeah.
But I had to admit that to them.
Yeah.
I needed them to know that I wasn't shit. Right?
Yeah.
So by you admitting that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm thinking about killing myself or I want to kill somebody else. It's about, I need them to know what I went through, what I thought, why I thought it. So if they suffer, they can say, well, my dad was honest about it with me. Maybe I can be honest.
But that's different. I'm just saying when people say they want to kill themselves, do they really want to kill themselves? Because like you have, like, but if you want to, you can do it at any time. By you vocalize it, that's saying, yo, I need help. Or I guess you don't know how to say I need help.
It is. A lot of people don't know how to say it, especially in the black community, because talking about mental health is also, it's like
a weakness.
It is. So you don't even want to talk about it. So you just sitting there struggling with it, and it's almost like you're at the edge of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my thing is you don't have to say that I want to kill myself to get help. You could just say, yo, I need help.
You can.
I'm
going through something. I need help, instead of saying I want to kill myself.
It's a little different
to get the help.
Look at it like this: when you go into the hood and you talk to a kid and you tell a kid, "Look, I was going through some things," right? That kid will probably say, "Yeah, my mom goes through things all the time," because she might try to interrupt his mom, and his mom says, "Hey, I'm going through something right now. Come back later." Right? So they associate that phrase you just gave them with their mom being too busy. When somebody comes to you and say, I'm going through some things, and you don't include the last part, they just think it's temporary. But when you tell them I'm going through some things, I'm contemplating suicide, that's a trigger. That means it's more than just somebody being busy. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different when you go to the extreme. And most people don't like to go to the extreme. Why? Because it gets silent like this. And they don't want that. They don't say that.
Have you ever said you was going to kill yourself?
I've never said it. I've thought about it. I've contemplated it. Because, again, everybody deals with mental health. When my pops passed away, that was my best friend. I spent 29 years every single day of my life with that man.
Rest in peace to him.
Every single day. I had nothing to... I was like, I don't got nothing to live for no more. So I contemplated it, but I never said it or verbalized it. But that goes back to what you were saying. If Jordan Bell would have verbalized he wants to kill himself, that's my mindset. If I verbalize that, how are people gonna look at me?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Now I've thought about, yo, I don't want to be here no more. When I screw ups, all that kind of mistakes, damn, what am I here for? Yeah, I think about it. I don't think about it anymore. But of course, you have to verbalize those kind of things.
When you thought about it, did you think of a way how to do it?
No, I didn't go that far. But
you also have to understand support system, because when I was having those thoughts, I verbalized it to him, to my mother, because I knew that was my support system. I know saying it will make that support system understand what I was going through. Now, you have people who post it on social media, but you have to say, why are they putting this out here for attention? Yeah. They might not have a support system. So they're looking for anybody to care. You know what I'm saying?
And I'll be honest with you, even though I suffered through it, when he went through it, my response was kind of like yours. He won't tell the story, but I will. You know, he was calling people and telling people. Man, you know, his mom called me and told me that his stepdad had went over there and took all the knives out of the house. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, but I'll go talk to him. So I went over and told him, look, man, if you want to do it, you got a gun, pull the trigger. Yeah. Pull the trigger, but fucking stop calling everybody and telling them what you're going to do.
That's what I would have did. I'm not going to lie. I would have said the same thing.
But here's the thing. He knew what I was telling him because I
was through love.
Because I suffered through it before too, and he knew that. So I was telling him, if this is really what you want to do, then do it. But I know it's not what you really want to do. Yeah. You're just going through something.
You just need somebody to talk to.
You just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So, but until you verbalize it, you don't get that kind of attention, man.
But
it's tough.
What pushes a man to the edge to say they don't want to be here no more?
I'll tell you a video that I saw a couple weeks ago. You guys probably heard about it. A guy named Mikey from Lynchburg. I won't say his last name. But he had recently got out of prison. And I got a video one morning sent to me on Facebook. So I open it up, I look at the video. It's dark, but I can hear somebody talking. I ain't going back to prison. Drive this motherfucking car. He was live on Facebook.
Yeah.
And he had a girl driving a car. He had a gun, and the cops was behind him. And he was asking her, "Did you call the motherfucking cops?" And she was saying, "No, I didn't call the cops." And he put the gun out the window and fired at the cops. And he was like, "I'm going back to prison. Yo, fuck this." And then you see the gun go to his head. Boom. Over. Killed himself. Mainly because he didn't want to go back to prison. So at the end of the day, well, we can talk about all the reasons, you know, because obviously if you don't want to go back to prison, why do you have a gun? Why are you doing things that you even need?
Yeah.
We can talk about that. But at the end of the day, going back to prison was his worst nightmare. And he wasn't going back. He'd rather be dead than to go back to prison.
Now, if you have, and that's a sad story, but if you have some type of mental issues, can we trace that back to accountability?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But the problem is with mental health is, especially when you have those thoughts, you're only thinking about right now. I'm not. So let's say if financially you're struggling, you're not thinking about a job and how the way to build your finances back up. You're thinking about right now. Where am I at right now? And what do I don't want to go through for the next few years to try to get this back right? It's almost like at end level. And the most people you see commit suicides are what? Celebrities. Why? Because something in their life happened to where they have to deal with the right now and they don't want to go through that.
Or you don't have a plan. Not having
Can time help it?
Time
heal
helps.
it?
That's the thing that does help, because once you're able to get that support system, you're able to get back on your feet, you get outside.
Or does time make it lay dormant?
Either way, time always is opportunity. So time buys you opportunity to get it right. You know, I can tell you guys tons of stories, but it's both sides. So you also have people that end up doing something to somebody else. And a lot of times it happens because, one, they have the gun, right? You have the weapon on you. It makes it, the opportunity arises and you just do it. Because the question is, we all may have felt like some point in our life, I'll kill this motherfucker, right? Yeah. But then you have something that says, wait a minute, You don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What gives you that, what makes that mechanism go off a lot of times is not having the weapon. Because if you got to go get the weapon and then come back, you feel a little different. You think a little different. The person might not even be there. So the time buys you a different opportunity. And the same thing with mental health. Time can help, but you have to, a lot of times you're going to need some other type of help. Something you can't do on your own. So going to see a therapist, and in Black communities, most people don't have health insurance to be able to go see a therapist. So what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Right. And it's different for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, going to get the weapon. So without the extreme, that may just say, coaches say all the time, you better go walk it off.
That's right.
If you're going off on the sideline, go walk it off.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
You know what I'm saying? And that means go get your head together, move around a little bit, move out of this exact environment, go walk it off. Get out of the now. For some people it may be listening to music, it may be going to the gym, it may be writing, it may be just getting out the house. Because when I was going through my thoughts, I was stuck in my apartment. I wouldn't leave.
I think everybody kind of go through those issues. Like I be lying saying I ain't never go through those issues. I try to keep it private.
Most people
or I got different things that that's why it's always important to have something you truly believe in. And I get entrenched and drenched in whatever I believe in to get over whatever I have to get over. And as you get older, those situations become even bigger, especially when they're not tackled. Like, so I do know I don't want to feel like I'm insensitive to mental health issues, because I know that's a big thing in the African American community, and something that's really ignored. Because I've worked with people that had these problems, and I'm like, wow, in our community, these things ain't even really being tackled. No. Like, this could have helped this person before he really lost it.
That's right.
If he had somebody to talk to, or he even had a higher power they believe in, or whatever.
That's right, because ultimately we think that religion is that determining factor between right and wrong, right?
Yes.
It's really not. It's consequences,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when a person make a decision to not kill somebody, it's because God intervened and said, well, I'm a good person, I don't want to kill this person.
The consequence.
Exactly. I don't want to go to prison. That's the consequence, right? So having time allows people to think about the consequences, even if it's something, suicidal thoughts, right? What are the consequences? And just for people that think, well, what are some consequences other than death? You attempted suicide and you end up paralyzed from the neck down. So now all you can do is think.
Yeah.
And you can't even attempt it again, right? What if you decide to jump off a bridge and you change your mind halfway down? What happens? So these are the kind of things that people think about, that time allows you the opportunity to feel different about what you think and maybe get some help.
Well, the consequences making things worse. One of the things you told me in mental health is don't do the snowball effect.
That's right.
So allowing one situation to go to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, because now you're making matters worse.
And as a man, especially a black man, we are really plagued with that snowball effect that you said.
Absolutely.
One thing turned to two, and then you look up, you mad. Then somebody say, "Why are you so that's a small problem?"
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was a whole lot of things that boiled up into one. Like, and then men, we not supposed to cry, so we go in the bathroom. Right. Most men, we go in the bathroom and cry. In the dark. Like I think everybody do that. Or like, you know what I mean, but. Because we can't come out and cry to our lady. We can't come and cry to our friends, which we should be able to.
Accountability is huge.
Yes.
When you think about everything we talked about, all has some resemblance of a level of accountability.
Yeah, except for Eminem. That's no accountability. That's just something horrible. But go ahead, brother.
Oh, wow, bro.
That's funny. But to your point, though, it brought out the passion.
Yeah.
It brings out the passion. And the great thing is, if you can get people passionate about a book or about education, about the truth, about history, about finances, about doing better in your community, if you could get people passionate about that, and that's what a lot of programs try to do. So we talk about programs in Bedford County. Like we had a basketball program called Hoops Kid that we use.
That was y'all community?
Yeah.
Oh,
a program called Hoops Kid, where we use that as a tool to teach kids how to play basketball at a competitive level, work on your individual skills. But more importantly, we use it as an opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right? So basketball is the thing to get you down.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But then we talk about time management.
It's kind of the trick.
Discipline, behavior, all those good things that you can now go incorporate in your daily life that has nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah.
So you find something that a child is passionate about. And
Yeah.
you use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way the government uses us for politics. Right?
Yeah.
But we're trying to use it to educate our kids so that they can become productive parts of society. That's incumbent upon all of us to do.
So, is the children our future?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Why?
Is the whole purpose in having kids is to keep the party going. That's the whole purpose, man. Keep this party going. I think about all the things that people before us went through. Think about, we can talk about where a majority of the black people derive from in America. We can talk about that all day.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about, if you think about it from the perspective of what slaves went through. They didn't kill themselves. They hung in
Think about
there.
how strong they were.
Yeah, they hung in there.
You
They
get what I'm
took it.
saying? Think about how strong.
Exactly. Think how easy it would have been just to go and say, man, just go and kill me.
Because that's easy.
But you know
that
what
was
they
easy
did?
to do.
For family, right? So what the white man would do is use your relatives against you. So you have a sister, you have a brother, you have kids. You don't do what I tell you, I ain't gonna do nothing to you. I'm gonna sell your daughter, right? Family was important.
Yes.
So when you think about the future of this world, if it's not the kids, then who is it?
Right.
You know?
My philosophy is a little different. I think they are the future, but I also say that they're the now. And I say that because when I was asked to speak at the Black Lives Matter protest, and I was like, I don't want to do this again because I shouldn't be the one speaking. I'm 31 years old.
Yeah.
You guys are the ones that's getting killed. When we look
Young
at the Trayvon Martins, it is the high school kids, the young people. You should be ones speaking out. So now, you work at the school, right? So they might look at you as the OG, the elder now. I look at him as an elder. So for me, as an elder, I kind of want to be behind the scenes. Whatever you need from me, I got you. Because we would look at the civil rights movement. You talk about Dr. King and Rosa Parks, but we know Claudette Colvin. We know John Lewis was a teenager. We know what the youth did. So when Ruby Bridges, all of these people, you guys are the now. You know what you don't want to put up with 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's up to you to say something. We'll guide you, but it's up to you now to secure your future and the future of the people that you're going to be bringing in to this world.
And we kind of have to get out their way. We kind of
You
have
said that in the podcast.
Absolutely.
we have to get out their way. We ask their opinion, we ask their ideas, and then when they tell us, "Oh no, you're wrong," that's not the way to do it.
That was good that you said that, right? But how do we get out their way?
Because that's what was done to us.
From my generation.
Especially if I see you doing something that I made this mistake. I seen you making that same mistake. How do we do it?
There's ways you can come at. So if a youngin was doing something that you did when you were their age and you knew how much trouble it got you into, it's a way you can approach that person and say, "Hey, I did this same exact thing. This is what happened to me. I'm just letting you know that if you continue to do this, this might be the consequence of that." Yeah. They may look at that. They may look at that response completely different than, "Nigga, stop doing that stupid shit."
Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest problems we had as a population relates to the NAACP. When you look at local chapters of the NAACP, the average age is 60 or older, right?
Yeah.
60 or older. What agendas are they still talking about?
Yeah.
You see what
Talking
I mean?
about the same thing.
Exactly.
We want jobs.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, because some of the agendas are good, and I know you guys had this problem too in the beginning where they wanted to have names stay consistent. Like they wanted in Beverly, they wanted to keep the Susie B. Gibson name on the school. And a lot of people was like, well, we don't care about that. Well, here's the problem. If you don't do that, you lose that history. Right. So you need them to do that. And that's one of the things that the local chapter in Bedford would always talk about, is trying to keep some of those things and not lose them. But some of the other agendas, those agendas are done with. You can't worry about those agendas. Right. So in terms of getting out the way, that's what we're talking about, is some of the older generation, some of those agendas, push those to the side. We're not going to worry about those. Yes, we want the street names. We want it to be Martin Luther King Boulevard. But I'll be honest with you. You go to any community in the United States and go to Martin Luther King Boulevard, Martin Luther King
worst part of
Avenue.
the city.
It's the worst part of the city. Do you really want Martin Luther King associated with that?
Right.
So naming a street is one thing.
I think that's by design, though. They'll let that happen. They'll let it
If
change.
we're the ones that's doing it.
Yeah.
We're the ones that's doing
That's
it.
that accountability.
Absolutely. We're the ones that's doing it. So part of the problem is we're continuing to push those agendas from that elder state of NAACP. Because you got younger people unconcerned with calling a street Martin Luther King Boulevard. I can tell you now, ain't no 20-year-olds out there advocating for that.
No,
right?
no.
That's the agendas of the people before us. We need to get out the way and let the younger generation push the agendas that they feel are important today. That's what we're talking about when we talk about
when you say getting out the way, but we know if we let them take the wheel, the younger generation, it won't be Martin Luther King Boulevard. It'll be Gucci Mane Boulevard. You get what I'm saying? So do we, how far do we let them drive the car?
No, I feel
Because they bug outs.
No, they're driving, but we're in the passenger seat, so we're out the way, but we still can.
But
be
they
a
have
driver.
all of us wearing purses. All men wearing purses.
I feel what you said.
They would
feel
like,
what you're saying.
so it's like we have to let them drive, but be right there like, yo, take this left. Slow down.
No, that's behind the scenes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You did say
so
that.
behind
Yeah.
the scenes is still educating.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So, like for instance, right? So, with the Bedford County School Board, especially, everybody was talking about bringing in more Black history into the curriculum, right? Bedford County said no, we ain't doing it.
Why did they say no?
Well, we know why they said no, but
Yeah.
Black people stopped talking about it. So I'm like, okay, just because Bedford County said no, what are you doing in your everyday life?
Yeah.
Are you allowing your kids to still read these books that they're banning from the library? Are you learning so you can teach your kids? Or are you just saying, well, Bedford County School is not teaching them, so we ain't gonna do nothing either? And that's that accountability. So we can't expect the youth to take the wheel if we're not educating them. And
we
that's
still got to
the
guide.
problem.
We
We still have to give them the knowledge to be able to take that wheel. So when you start teaching your kid to drive, you ain't just putting them in the car and say, go. No, you got to say, hey, look, first thing you get in, put your seatbelt on. You know what I'm saying?
And if we're doing it right, you're not going to have leaders that are going to be trying to name a street Gucci Mane Lane, right? If we bring them up right, that's not going to happen. Right. If we're doing our part, and we're not just talking about community leaders and educators and motivators, we're talking about parents. And I think when we talk about accountability, and this is the one that most Black families don't like to talk about, right, is Black parent accountability. We don't like to talk about that because the average, if you think about the Black people that you know, the last thing they want you doing is trying to tell them how to be a fucking parent.
Yeah.
And they'll let you know that. They'll tell you that to
fact.
your face. Yeah. Who are you to tell me how to parent my child, right?
Yeah.
But we can't let that stop us, right? Because what I did in my past is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, where your child is going to go if they continue doing what they're doing. Right. I can tell you a lot about that. Yeah. And we can't back down from that type of response when we're talking to Black parents. We can't back down from it. You can't be afraid of that. That's the accountability that we need. Because if the accountability doesn't start in the home, you ain't going to get it nowhere else.
That's a fact.
You ain't going to get it nowhere else.
That's a fact.
And that goes back to, we had that though. At one point, we had that community to where I could discipline my next door neighbor's child.
That's right.
And my neighbor could discipline my child without us fighting back and forth. Somewhere in
Took
there,
a village.
We lost
We was
that.
with the village.
Somewhere in there, we lost that.
Well, you know, what ended up happening is single mothers, let's just be honest, single mothers got into that situation where the Black fathers weren't around and it was all on them. And nobody was going to come in and break that bond between them and their child. So if somebody else disciplines my child and my child comes home crying, the only thing I care about is my child came home crying. I'm going to see Miss Jones. Miss Jones, you put your hands on my child, you know, and that's the protection. That's that protection mechanism that Black mothers have. And I get that. The other thing is that we don't really have people worthy in the community to be disciplined in anybody. That's another problem. You know, I can't have a guy out here that's getting high and then trying to tell my son not to get high, right? That's difficult, even though he has a right to, and I'm glad that he is, but he's following your example. He's not listening to your words. Yeah. So if you want to do good in the community, you got to do good in the community.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me change something up real quick. I love this whole accountability conversation, but I want to switch the pitch a little bit to when we had it as far as our community. And we got somebody here that's can speak on this topic real well. Jordan, tell them about Gainesboro.
So Gainesboro is still a majority black community here in Roanoke, but during Jim Crow civil rights era, I say from about 1900 up until about the 1970s, it was like a black Wall Street. Over 200 businesses, hospitals, home ownership, schools, churches. And in the 1950s, when urban renewal hit, integration started to come, all of that was just completely destroyed and wiped out and bulldozed. So that neighborhood and community just was wiped out and completely taken away. And so now Gainesboro looks like one of the worst neighborhoods and communities in the city of Roanoke, when just 60 years ago, it was one of the best neighborhoods in Roanoke. But it was completely wiped out. It had over 200 businesses, black-owned, black-run hospital, churches, schools, and now it doesn't have any of that.
Tell them, what are you doing in the Gainesboro area now?
So what I'm
in that
doing
same area
is trying to preserve that history. Okay. And not only preserve that history, but build on to that. So we had a medical clinic, 60 years ago. How did they build that medical clinic and keep it self-sustaining? How can we do that again? So not only learning about it and teaching about it, but trying to build on to that. Because I'm telling you, once people find out that to me, the most important history you can learn is the history right where you live.
Absolutely.
Is the history. As soon as you walk out the front door, to your left, Oliver Hill lived right there, civil rights attorney. Edward Dudley, first black ambassador in the country, lived right here. To me, the most important history you can learn is as soon as you walk out your front door, what happened in my neighborhood a couple of years ago that I can build off of. That's so right. Preserving that history to me that's my passion.
That's dope.
That's all about the tours you do.
So we given the tour for probably about 1,000 people over the past 2 years, me and my daughter. And it's like a mile long walk, but it's like a square mile. Okay. So what we do, we started the Gainesboro Library. We hit a area that we call the Clater property, which used to be a 23-room mansion, all black family, 8 children, Tuskegee Airmen. They had a black medical clinic, had a black service station. Then across the street from them, it was a civil rights attorney, Reuben Lawson. Then a few blocks up the street, Oliver Hill, Edward Dudley, famous civil rights activist. And so we walked that neighborhood, pointing to the houses, pointing to these buildings, pointing to the empty lots where these areas used to be. And then going over to Henry Street, where James Brown and Ella Fitzgerald and Wilt Chamberlain and Harlem Globetrotters, they used to come, and it was all those businesses over there. Wow. And so it's a walking tour called Gainesboro Revisited. And so we've been doing that for probably about the last 2.5, 3 years, me and my daughter.
What could we do? What could we do to help support that cause? What could we do?
To be honest with you, what I've been thinking about is how can we connect all of the black history in Southwest Virginia?
Yeah, because it wasn't just Gainesboro.
It wasn't.
Like every area that it was black people had these type of communities. Like we always think that they just let us know about Black Wall Street and Harlem.
Right. Yeah. We did an episode about the local people just in Central Virginia, and there's in Lynchburg there's a house of a lady who was influential in the Harlem Renaissance.
What's her? Somebody told me about her. Somebody told me about that.
And something. Also, you had the Patterson 7 in Lynchburg, the first sit-in.
The first sit-in in the cafe in Lynchburg.
Oh, for real? Yeah, was it like a Woolworths?
It was a Woolworth. Yep.
Oh, wow.
It was first sit-in in the country?
No, in Virginia.
In Virginia, okay.
And then, a lot of predominantly, influential people came from Virginia. Actually, Mary Ellen Pleasant, who was considered one of the richest, she was born in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, trying to connect all of that and build off of it. Because, people who lived here in Gainesboro, people who did business in Gainesboro wasn't necessarily from Roanoke or lived in Roanoke. Right. What's that brother's name? It's a brother named John H. Davis. He was a black millionaire here in Roanoke, like in 1915, but he's from Lynchburg. And his name is John H. He He owned a place called Davis Hall on Gainesboro Road, and it was a black pharmacy.
Okay.
But he from John H. Davis. He's from Lynchburg.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, that when we did some a couple of podcasts on Black history in this area, and one of the areas that get left out a lot is the Peaks of Honor,
What's that?
The Parkway, the Blue Ridge Parkway. A lot of black cities were established on the Parkway.
Wow.
And one of the first
I never heard that.
One of the first places to become desegregated in Virginia was on the Parkway when they started creating the little camping sites. Is because because there was such an influx of black people on the mountains. They said, well, we got to make sure that we're able to bring these folks in to where we can make some money. So they integrated some of the bathrooms so that black people could use the bathrooms.
Wow.
But that's where some of the first sections of desegregation took place.
Wow.
But just imagine if we can connect all the dots
Yeah.
of black history, black communities in Virginia. And I'm telling you, they are, somehow, some way, they all connect.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Somehow, some way, they all connect.
Yeah.
Have either of you ever been down to Danville? They got a lot of history down in
Oh,
Danville
yes.
too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of history.
You got Danville. You got Farmville, of course, was influential.
That's
in,
right.
Yeah.
Appomattox.
Yeah.
Yeah, Farmville was that's some of the descendants of Nat Turner.
That term.
Lived
And then
there,
you got Brown versus the Board of Education. Yeah.
You know, Denzel Washington's from Farmville.
He is? Wow.
Somebody else is from Farmville. I can't
Lady
remember.
of Rage. I know that.
Lady
of Rage
from
from Farmville. That's right.
Yeah,
I was shocked when I heard that.
Yeah.
yeah Lady of
Yeah,
Rage.
she used to
is
be a
definitely-
Fevers back in the day. That's before y'all's time.
Yeah, I know about Fevers. I know about Fevers. Man, this was a great show.
Absolutely.
This was definitely a great show.
My cameras went dead, but we did get some video. But
Oh,
we got
okay,
audio,
okay.
So we got
Okay.
content to work.
All right.
What do y'all do y'all show down there?
In my crib.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm a person who just try to be creative and use what I got. So I already had the cameras, went and got mics, and turned my basement into a little office. So the background is basically my little office, and we just started doing it, like just using what we got, getting little things here and there to make it look better, make it sound better, and just working, just putting our head down and working. And Bedford is, when we do our podcast, Bedford is an area that is weird, you know what I mean? Because you know what I'm saying? A lot of black people are uncomfortable with what we talk about.
Yes,
you know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes.
Even just the history part.
Yeah.
Like you talked about it earlier, Martin Luther King was one of the most hated people on the planet when he was alive, not just by white people, by black people.
By black people,
Because
yes.
a lot of people don't like just stirring the pot of just
Yeah.
talking about certain things. But that's what our podcast wanted to do. It wanted to create conversations. It wanted to, especially in our own community where a lot of things is brushed under the rug. I can't tell you how many meetings I went to where white people telling me that racism that doesn't exist. And I'm like, y'all got to be crazy because y'all not the ones experiencing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's what we want to do with our show. And of course, talk about black history. Of course, bring information. There's teachers who say, man, I didn't know that. But that's
Yeah.
the information we want
Yeah.
to bring on.
Yeah. Because, in schools, we only taught the easy people.
Of course.
Like,
Things that they like.
they didn't shake up things as much.
That's right. Especially down
Like,
here in the South.
Yeah.
There was things that I was taught in school that they didn't teach them in school. I taught them.
Yeah.
Outside of school. But they didn't learn about like Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah.
They didn't teach that in school.
And that brother was
Yeah.
And he was one of the most intelligent brothers. And the funny thing is when you go to DC, there's no mention of Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you got LaFont Plaza.
Yeah.
And he was the guy who was supposed to design and build it, who had a disagreement and left. And they went to Benjamin Banneker and he said, you know what? I could redo the plans from memory. I got you.
Yeah.
The brother built the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they call it Big Ben, but they claim it's not due to to Benjamin Banneker, right? But they call it Big Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. Man, so just let the good folks in New Wabu Order land know where to find you at, good brother.
You can find me on Facebook, Martrey Stevens, Martrey Stevens, Stevens. You can also follow our Facebook page, My Unapologetic Perspective, which has got more likes from people I don't know than people I do know. That just shows you the support from strangers, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, Mighty Motivation Network, Instagram, Martre S, and I ain't gave out my TikTok yet because I'm just studying the algorithms.
I need to do that. Yeah, I got to learn how to do that.
So I just been posting on TikTok, studying the algorithms. The numbers look good on TikTok. I can't say that, but I haven't gave that out yet.
I got to do the TikTok.
So tell our people where to find your podcast.
You can find it on Anchor .fm/New Wabu Order. Also, you can find me on YouTube, New Wabu Order. I got a couple of good shows on there. What I try to blend is like battle rap and consciousness. That's my goal, but it's looking like it's leaning more towards consciousness because I love it more than battle rap.
Right.
But I just like the fierceness of battle rap.
Right.
And like if you could put, like if a battle rapper could be a conscious leader, that would be something ill. Like they could just say what they really want to say.
Yeah. So real quick, why did Easy Block Captain leave Gun Titles? Did he say? I
don't really like Easy Block Captain. Nah.
Oh, when they was all talking. Okay.
Yeah. And like it, I got
He joined on Midnight Madness. He on is the Hitman's team.
Oh no, I seen Calico
ball
release
game
his landslide team.
Oh, but
no, yeah, you're right. He with Calico.
Oh, landslide. Okay. I have a show actually with Knowledge God. He's the like the biggest blogger in battle rap.
Hip Hop is Real.
Yeah, hiphopisreal.com. He came from the consciousness. He had Key to Life Productions.
Mm-hmm.
And he used to interview Netta, everybody, Polite. He interviewed everybody. But just like me, he had got a sour taste in his mouth about, like we were saying about the conscious community.
Yeah.
So he said, you know what? He said Netta said that he was an agent and all type of stuff. So he said, you know what? I'm gonna do this battle rap thing. And things got big for him. Yeah. He got like almost 300,000 subscribers and through that. So I interviewed him. He's gonna be back on the show this year also.
Yeah, that was a dope interview.
I think we might try to do a face-to-face, like an in-house thing instead of over Zoom. But yeah, I just got plenty, and they got some good shows to come. Got Tahaka Bay coming. I got Jay the Shooter. He's like a black gun club. He has a black gun club. And I also have Doggy Diamonds. That's gonna be on the 29th. I don't know when it's gonna come out though. That's what I got coming up this year, and some other guests. It's not confirmed yet. Mm-hmm. And shout out to my man Mark Muhammad Jr. And that's how we coming over here in the Wabu Order.
Jordan, how can they go? Where do they go to get the tour of Gainesboro? I know y'all be doing events. Y'all did the Juneteenth event. How can people from Bedford, especially, or Lynchburg, or the people who listen to us, how can they get information on how to come see those things or be a part of those events?
So Gainesboro Revisited has a Facebook page, and it's entitled Gainesboro Revisited. And then just hit me up on social media. Facebook mainly Jordan Bell, and all the information is right there. You can inbox me. That's how majority of the people find out, is just broadcasting it on Facebook, and then people inbox me on Facebook.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.